Welcome to Me Time with Mind Escape Vibe, where it is your time to be kind to your mind. I'm so excited for my guest today, Michelle Kennedy, an intuitive and inclusive Reiki Master, Akashic Reader and Guide, meditation and mindfulness facilitator, and yoga teacher. Michelle's book, Hold Space Affirmations and Meditations for Healing and Loving Yourself, is a response to many clients needing a little help between Reiki sessions. I'm so excited to have you on today, Michelle. Welcome. I have my sticky notes on the book, so I had to move it to the side to get the whole title. I got all my sticky notes here. I'm so glad to have you on, Michelle. I like to start the show with asking all guests to share a mental victory vibe celebration. What's your mental victory vibe celebration? What have you done for yourself lately?
Oh, what have I done for myself? I have rekindled my love for singing and karaoke. So I've been making myself go even when I'm like, eh. And I try to go at least a couple of times a month and do that for self-care because singing is so cleansing to the body and the soul. And so I have, even though I may feel like grumpy or tired, I go, I sing a song or two, and I feel so much better. So yeah, that has been my big self-care thing, even though it doesn't sound big, but it is.
I think it's huge because it bleeds into the next question with all that singing. What's your personal empowerment theme song?
It is very hard to narrow down to one. So I got it to three.
Okay.
And I will say, and these may be kind of deep cuts for a lot of listeners, but Change by Blind Melon has gotten me through many, many rough times and transitions in my life. And that's from the 90s. From the 80s, Hold On by Triumph, which is all about holding on to your dreams, even when things are bad, keeping that vibe. It also mentions how music can make us kind of uh, feel better about things. And then I will put the cherry on top with Rise Up by Andra Day, which that is
Ooh.
just
You know what
laying
I
it
like?
on.
I like that you took us on a journey because music in the 80s and the 90s, like I grew up on that music, especially 90s music. I think we had the best era of music during that time. Like the music was just, it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I love that you've taken us on a journey, and I hope the me timers appreciate that journey and look it up and enjoy the music. I can't wait to check it out. I am familiar with a couple of these songs. It's the one Triumph from the 80s. I got to check that one out.
Yeah.
So I love that you've taken us on a journey with personal empowerment theme songs. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So, I do want to get into a couple of things just prior to hopping into the book. And I want to actually understand if a lot of this, if some of these things actually also play a role with the book that you've written. So, for you, what is Reiki? I know what it is. I'm very familiar with it, but we may have some folks out there that's like, I'm not doing that. That might be hokey. Could you explain to us what Reiki is?
I definitely can. And I used to be one of those people who thought it was hokey. um, the way I like to describe it is energy healing. And with energy healing, we are all essentially energy. More than physical, we are energy, and energy is all around us throughout space. Um, when we're born, we are born with the purest energy. We are the purest form of ourselves. And then society and parental figures and adult figures start to feed us with stuff. And it may not be beliefs or thoughts that we truly had as a pure form. And we take them on, even though we may not identify with them. We're told to. So Reiki is that pure energy. And a Reiki practitioner channels it through them without judgment. They are just a channel, letting it pass through, go to that person. And then this energy goes and says, oh, this is not this person's energy, and kind of clears it and re empowers them with their true, pure energy, their purest form of themselves, their highest vibration. And it may take stages and a number of sessions to get you back to your full self because day to day society pushes us down. But that is generally the essence of what it does. It basically, um, whatever you need to come back to yourself, it will bring.
So in essence, it's releasing the energy that's already within us is just suppressed.
Yes, yes, it's kind of opening the doors of what we really are and clearing away what we're really not.
Now, a lot of folks would say, okay, well, we're messing with energies here. Okay, we're messing with so maybe an energy that I'm suppressing is that of something that extremely traumatic, that is extremely negative. And for those that say we're messing with that devil energy, what would your reply be?
I hesitate to say it because um, some people get very worried about there's religious aspects of Reiki,
Mhm.
but to me, it's very universal. So whatever your beliefs are, even atheists have worked with that can adapt their mindset to the scientific aspect of our energy. I personally don't believe in a devil. And I think that Reiki has connected me more to the divine than anything else in my life, any religious upbringing or studies that I've ever done. That it truly is more of a divine aspect of heaven or the universe that comes through. Um, because I think each of us have divine in us. So when it's coming through, it is opening those doors and channels within yourself to remember who you truly are and that you are of God or source or space, whatever you're identifying with.
I love that. So it allows you to remember who you truly are.
Yes,
And I think in a world where we have so many things going on, so many things whether it's negative or positive, is thrown at us all day long, whether
yeah,
we're watching the news or on social media, whatever the case may be. So you need to connect to what's positive to feed positivity into your life, to speak that into your life.
exactly. I mean, we're influenced by everything around us. So, yeah, that's so easy to lose yourself in that and start believing other people's hype
Mhm.
and forgetting who you truly are and what you truly believe.
I can definitely understand that, and I really appreciate your explanation and my follow-up question because I really think that if we don't ask the questions and provide the information and for others to learn more and build curiosity to educate themselves, then we're always walking in the myth. So thank you for more my follow-up for answering my follow-up
You're
question.
welcome.
What what are Akashic records? Did I say it right?
Akashic records. Yes.
Akashic records. Okay.
So, in the Hindu beliefs and yoga, there's an aspect called the Akash, and that is basically the ether or the spiritual energy, right? So Akashic records is that each of us, our soul, has kind of a record, whether you want to think of it in space, in heaven, or somewhere spiritually, that every experience we've had in this life, and whether you believe in past lives or not, every experience in past lives, every karmic connection we have to other people or other souls, as
Mhm.
well as karma that we came to this life to overcome or deal with, or our purpose in this life, is all recorded and kept within the Akashic records. Now, some people believe it's like this beautiful big library in, in the clouds in heaven. Um, and that's great for people who need that symbolism. I think that that's an easier way for us to wrap our minds around it, and it's only available to, well, it is available to each of us. Our own records are available to each of us when we are able to get to a very still space and openness and trusting, and raising our vibration. But those of us who read the Akashic records, we usually have a spirit guide who connects us to the Akashic records, and that other person's spirit guides kind of allow for, let's say, me to act as a go-between, a liaison to you for your records. So if I'm reading the Akashic Records, I can't go to the library and read somebody's whole book. It
Mm,
is by permission only of what that person's spirit guides allow me to see, hear, know, to translate to the person who is in need of that information. So if we are, let's say, stuck in a loop and spinning our wheels in life, and like, why do I keep attracting these kind of partners, or why do I keep getting stuck in these kind of jobs and so on, that there may be a karmic reason for it. There may be a past life thing that we are replaying and not even realizing that we are replaying a loop that we don't want to play.
mm,
Um, and it also opens doors and allows for information about potential futures. So we have a lot of people who believe in fate or destiny, that when we come to this lifetime, we have a purpose and we have a goal. I think the journey is more important than the goal, but I do believe that we have future potentials. So there may be branches of, well, if you make this choice, then this will be the outcome. If you make that choice, that will be the outcome. And some of these things are available within the Akashic Records, but we have free will. So we can change that whole course and new pathways will come.
hmm. I find that very interesting because it sounds to me like what you're saying is it's already written in the cards. And we have an opportunity when working. Is this part of um Reiki or some other form of energy healing? That's probably a question I should ask, because when we're working through energy healing, right, knowing what's in those Akashi records can either help us decide whether we're going to, which fork in the road we're going to take. Am I understanding that correctly?
Um, yes, but there's a little bit more to it. So
Okay.
first I'll answer the question, is it a healing modality? And it is, because knowing some of this stuff can help you take steps forward that are more mindful,
Mhm.
more with more intention in our
Mhm.
lives. Um, I have always had access to it. When I was attuned to Reiki, it was like if something was coming through in a drip and all these, like, the faucet opened, or the stream came through and I was having more and more access. And originally I thought that it was part of Reiki, but found out several years later that it is not. Many Reiki masters do not have access to that. um, so yes, it is written. However, because we come here with free will, we
Mhm.
can rewrite the future. So we have these potentials, but if we make another choice completely against any of the ones that are potentially there, then new potentials are created. So I have read about people who have near-death experiences and they go, to the other side, and they're shown their Akashic records and they're like, well, I don't want to do that, send me back. And they completely change their life and their trajectory. So we do have that power. There are certain things that we are meant to do. So I'll
Mhm.
give the example of, like I mentioned earlier, that I did think Reiki was kooky back in, my college days. And I went to college, and across the street there was, like a new age shop, because that's what we called it then. And they had meditation classes, they had yoga, they had Reiki. And I was like, ooh, no, bring me to the psychic fair, but don't do Reiki. That's weird. So it was introduced to me back then. And then when I was in yoga teacher training, I was introduced again to it by a fellow teacher in training. And she did a session with me and she said, you are a healer. Your hands were so hot and you were giving back to me. Like I was receiving from you. And I said, oh, really? Well, can you teach me? And she was like, no, I'm not able to teach you yet. And literally just threw it somewhere back in my mind. Never thought of it again until my husband got diagnosed with cancer and he started working with a Reiki practitioner, and she and his tumor started shrinking, and yeah, and he had not done any chemo yet. And I immediately, and also he did Reiki through, and his experience was less toxic. Like he wasn't getting a lot of the side effects that a lot of people were getting with the same type of treatment. So I said to his Reiki practitioner, I need you to teach me. And she was like, oh, I'm not teaching now. And I said, that's fine. I'll wait. She's like, oh, there's other people. I said, no, you're my teacher.
Mm.
So I think when we have a purpose or a reason for coming here, we are super meant to do something that the path will, no matter what direction or path we take, we will come around and be reintroduced and rekindled with that information or opportunity until we are ready to receive it.
I actually strongly believe that as well. When I started this journey a little bit like I was older than most of the young ladies that were in the course with me. In the courses, you take your courses, you're sitting around, you're either, it was online, so we on video, and I'm like looking like, oh my gosh, she's a young lady. And here I am. And my coach checked me. She actually said, I said, well, I know I am a little older than everyone else to be taking this journey, but it is really time for me to do it. And she said, instead of saying that, did you ever think that this is the perfect time for you to do it, that this is your time to do it, that God wanted you to do it right now?
Yeah.
And I stopped saying that afterwards because it was a insecurity that of ageism that I had. That was my own limiting belief
Right.
that at the time she checked me on it and I didn't know it was a limiting belief for me. So I totally understand what you're saying. It resonates with me very well. I love it.
100%.
So, can you collaborate on how you can use these methods to shape and transform overall well being? I know you gave a great example with your husband. Like, that is phenomenal. Can you elaborate more?
Yes. So I will, by the way, because I know in other podcasts people have asked, he is free and clear, cancer free, 17 years, over 17 years now. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. So, yes, I have worked with people with really deep, dark trauma. And because of the access to the Akashic Records, I could access those traumatic moments. And a lot of these people that I've worked with, their mind has blocked it from them, they can't access it because it's too traumatic for them to see or re-experience, but they do know something happened. They do feel it in their body. They're aware that, but they can't see it. So I have been privy to some deep, dark trauma and actually seen it and validated for them, and also helped, even though, and I am a very strong believer, you don't have to see or re-experience your trauma in order to heal it.
I believe
So
that too.
through me getting through the door of Akashic Records into that past awful moment or moments or years of moments, I was able to draw out the inner child that was wounded in that time and help that inner child reconnect with the adult, and for them to get to a point of feeling safe to be with their inner child, or their inner child to feel safe with them, and reconnecting with that energy of the childhood innocence that was, lost or something like that. And finally, like, or I said earlier, like connecting with that true essence of who their pure self was, is, and always is meant to be. And seeing them transform into a more powerful woman, someone who's able to take charge, who's able to create boundaries, who's able to use the song title, rise up
Mhm.
and, accept compliments, to recognize when they're in a trigger and say, hey, that's not okay to say to me. They find their power back that they lost, because little kids can be very much like, I don't like that, right?
Mhm.
But that power was taken, and they're able to reclaim it. And I've seen it. Like, I remember one particular client, the first time I saw her, she was so childlike in her energy. She carried herself so small. And now she stands tall and she has more power in her voice, and you see the powerful woman she is.
Hmm. I remember when I first started Mind, I would vendor in the community, and I was also wrapping up my mindfulness and meditation teacher certification. So I was writing meditations, and I was at an event, and I went to the young lady ahead of time, and I said, "Can I say my meditation? I really want to share." She was like, "Sure." And we were there, and I'm just having a good time. And she peeping me, but I'm like having a good time. And finally, it's time. And she calls me, and I'm like, "Okay, this is it. I'm going up there." And my voice, like now you can hear my voice, but at the time I was, "Okay, I need for you to get in a comfortable position. And it was a Reiki master doing yoga that day. And this young lady who was the Reiki master, she looked at me and she said, "Clear your throat chakra. You have something to say." That's what she said to me. And I was like, I was nervous. And she said, "No, I need for you to work on that because you have something to say." And it took me a minute. I thought she meant I had something to say at that time, at that moment, that present moment that I was in. But when I talked to her later, because I did a Reiki session with her, she said, "No, you have something to say." And I was like, "Ah." So it's a powerful feeling to have someone come to you and say to you, use your voice, clear your throat chakra, because you have something to say. And let me just tell you, Michelle, I've been working on it ever since.
And look at you doing it now.
Right. And because I thought she meant so I could say that meditation and really feel, and I had practiced it and I really felt it, but I was nervous to use my voice
Yeah.
because my inner child, her voice had been quieted so long. And she was like, "No, no, 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 no. Use your voice, girl. Use your voice." So I love to hear you say that because a lot of it I've gone through and came out on the other side. And I can't wait for me timers to hear this and have that same experience.
Very
It
powerful.
Girl, it is extremely powerful. I want to talk about your book. I have so many questions, but I have to keep my podcast within the time frame. But
Yes.
as you can see, Michelle, I can talk and I have my questions lined up, girl. What made you write the book?
So I'll try to keep it brief, but I have considered myself a writer most of my life. I used to write little picture books when I was a kid, little stories and stuff by hand. And then my grandmother got me a typewriter and I started typing some of them. Um, but the reason it kind of birthed as it is presented today, hold space, is that for many of my clients who had trauma or have, uh, deeper issues, and they may have seen me every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, depending on what they could afford or what their time allowed for. So I would often channel affirmations for them during the session, write them out and give them to them. And I kind of knew something because a lot of them had universal messages in them that maybe take a line out or two of personal that would be translatable to the masses. So I always thought I would write an affirmation deck or something like that, or an affirmation, exclusively affirmation book. So when the shutdown happened, I felt very pulled that this is the time and the world needs this. So I started writing it as exclusively an affirmation book, and then it just expanded with these meditations that needed to be shared and these kind of stories or prose features that help dig in to the deep, dark, limiting beliefs and conditions that we have as human beings. And, I wanted to get out there fast because who knew how long this pandemic was going to last. And I was like, we need to, people need help. And my husband literally pulled the brakes and he was like, don't rush it.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time. Nope. You don't have like an agent telling you have a deadline to meet. Take your time. And I did. And it was really good that I took my time because I ended up getting a different cover artist, and there were parts that were added into the book, like the mommy and daddy issues were added after that time. So basically, it is a book that has come out of some of the Reiki experience. It's really not about Reiki. It is really about self-care. It is really about holding space for yourself and taking a journey of healing so that you can love yourself.
So I'm going to read Hold Space. It's on page 39 in chapter 2. It says, I hold space for anyone who has lost a loved one, anyone struggling to become, anyone who is suffering in silence and selflessness, anyone who feels powerless, the anxious and depressed. For all those who are awakened and see the truth but aren't sure what to do next, anyone living in fear, anyone lost, anyone who feels unloved, all who are healing, all who are awakening, any who are are starting on their path to greatness. I got you. Someone reading that, it covers a lot of things. And it touches my heart because we have to hold space for this type of healing.
Yes.
Tell us, how did you come to put such beautiful words together to touch so many type of situations or even traumatic events?
There are so many aspects to that answer, so I'll do my best. Um, I myself suffer from CPTSD. Not a great childhood. Had some other traumatic events along the way. Was a sickly kid. Had a lot to overcome from childhood. So a lot of me went into that book. But also, as I was writing it, I felt like there was a lot of divine around me, coming through me, because you just read those words, and some of me is like, was that me? Did I write that?
The
Um,
words jump off the page, Michelle.
and I think that I had such an open heart, loving heart, generous heart while I was writing it, that whatever was coming through me or from me blended together and, you know, gave the world what it needed, and people, individual souls, what they may need through
I think
whatever.
it's important to give the world this because you are speaking for those who can't speak for themselves, who can't figure out, how do I put this into words? You put it into words for them. You put it into words. When I read this, I was, and because I talk to my dogs, it's a thing. I talk to my dogs, and these words are jumping off the page. Now, Triumph and Rain, they're used to hearing that from me because I read a lot. I read a lot of books, so they're like, "Oh, there she go," and I'm like, "No, let me read this," and they just look up at me like she's crazy. But this is beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful. If you had any message for anyone who opened this book and didn't know how to start, didn't know how to use it and as a resource, as a guide, as a reference, what would that advice be?
The way I wrote it was kind of on a journey that some of the beginning of the book is easier work than the end of the book. All right. The last couple of chapters get into the deep, hard stuff.
Chapter
However,
8.
however, it is the type of book that you don't have to start at the beginning and go to the end. You could flip through and stop where you are. And, you can hold the book and say, what do I need to know today? And skim through and open and start there today. But this book is for everyone and anyone because we all have pain. We all have limiting beliefs. We all are on a journey, and the journey of life is a healing journey.
It is a healing journey. And I life is it has its set of challenges. Every day is a new day to start again. And I think opening up hold space and finding how it fits where you are right now, not who you were 10 years ago, right now in the present moment. It has a lot of healing energy, a lot you feel the energy coming out the book. And I really enjoyed it. I have one more question for you, but I had two things marked to read. So if you will allow me.
Of course, of course. But I want to just mention something because you said something and I want to like not step on that, but I want to add to that.
Mhm.
That while I was writing it, I was in a very high vibration kind of connected state. I literally felt the Reiki coming through my hands as I was typing. So you are correct. There is healing energy in that book.
It's called I Am Free. I send unconditional love to all angry, anger and sadness within me. I release the pain. I let it all go. I choose life. I embrace peace. You can no longer hurt me. I let it all go. I forgive everything that depletes me and holds me back. I am healing. I am free. To reach that level of freedom and forgiveness and acceptance and self trust, Michelle, if someone hears this and they're like, oh, that's where I want to be, what would you recommend that they do to start to work toward that?
I think a lot of us struggle with being our own friend, and I think that's a big part of it. Of if you can see yourself from outside of yourself, um, if you can imagine your inner child seeing you now or you seeing your inner child, that's even better. You as an adult seeing your inner child, how would you treat that child
Mm,
who probably, possibly was mistreated or lost their way and you're feeling lost now? How would you guide that child forward? Um, but that can be hard for a lot of people. So
mhm,
I will say that I think that the foundation of mindfulness and meditation and healing is breath
mhm. Yeah.
because we go through life. Yes, we're breathing all the time, but our breath can be very shallow. It can be very quick when we're angry or stressed, and all of us are carrying stress. So when we can stop and sit with our breath and inflate our lungs completely and deflate them and exhale completely over and over again, even if it's for, 3 or 4 breaths or a minute of mindful breathing, can really bring us to a heightened state of awareness, and we can more easily reflect on what is true and what isn't, and maybe finding that space for self love, self care, and letting go or forgiving.
I love it. I love it. You have brought so much energy to the show today. It's radiating right now. I'm going to be walking on just in energy for the rest of the day, and I'm so grateful. But I do have one last question for you. What advice would you give your younger self to cultivate self trust?
Who, my younger self? Um, Nobody knows you better than you know yourself.
This is true, and we sometimes forget that. We sometimes forget that. Michelle, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
It has been a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Renee.
And I love your book. So when the words jump off the page, my soul is fed. You fed my soul with this book. And thank you for making space for the me timers today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to mention something to you. Um, there's actually a little, I think it's a QR code in the back of the book that you can, you can have the meditations that I recorded. So I don't have an audio book, but I do have the audio of those meditations. So you and anyone listening, anyone who buys the book can scan that. And basically it sends me a message and I will send you the book. I
Oh,
mean, the recording.
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So where can me timers go to purchase your book?
Good question. You can get it on Amazon or Kindle if you like ebooks. It's available at Barnes and Noble. It's available at any of your small bookstores. Most of them will have to order it because I'm not like a major author at this time, but it is accessible to them. I did make sure that it wasn't just an Amazon thing, that other, any bookstore, small, big, doesn't matter, that they could get the book. So you can order it anywhere, hold space. And you know the rest. Hold space. Affirmations and meditations for healing and loving yourself, that you can get it wherever you want it. I wanted to make sure that it was available in the Amazon space because so many of us rely on it for better or for worse. But also, I really love to support small businesses. So I want to make sure little bookstores could also get it. And that's important.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on today.
You're
And
very
me
welcome.
timers, you heard it here first with Michelle Kennedy. Hold space. And remember, this is me time with Mind Escape Vibe. Where is your time? To be kind to your mind. You have a great day now.